This is Suspicious Minds with Wade Durbin and Burl Tuttle.
Riff and make this happen, it'd be great.
Oh, okay. So you just want to riff and make this happen? Like, I'm throwing my notes out then.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we're in it. So this is it. We're here. So let's riff. Let's riff.
It's starting.
It started. I already started us. I didn't wait.
Well, why should you?
Yeah.
Burl,
it's like I'm just walking right through the door while you're going to the bathroom or something. Just shocking you.
Right. It's like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. It's like, okay. And then like 10 seconds later, you walk in.
Yeah.
Here I am.
You in here? Yeah.
You done yet?
Yeah. So, hey, welcome to Suspicious Minds.
It's me, Wade. I'm stepping over your cue here.
We didn't really write this part of it, so it's fine. And this is Burl. So we're into another fun episode, which actually, I'm going to say from the last one, when we were having fun with Elvis on stage, I actually needed to have fun with the next thing, because I don't think I said it enough, but having fun with Elvis on stage wasn't fun, like at all.
I very much did not enjoy that record.
Yeah. Now I can say it. I think I was too scared to pull the trigger and say something bad, but those days are over now. Moving on.
And when you're talking about something that you actually don't enjoy, I don't know what the point of all of it is, honestly.
Well, I think we were trying to figure out what was fun about Elvis on stage, and it turned out nothing. Nothing was really fun about it.
They just should have called the album Elvis Talks or something. Don't even say there's going to be anything fun about it.
Yeah, it was just the contractual obligation album. Yeah.
You're right. So tell me, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about Aloha from Hawaii.
Wow.
So, yeah, the 1973, January, kicking off 1973 with probably the biggest thing Elvis did in his career.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine you could go bigger than that.
But we'll find out. We'll find out if he did. And I will say, like, on a personal note, this is probably pretty close to, like, the epicenter of my fandom. Is finding this in my late teens, early 20s, and then watching it religiously on a VHS cassette for months. And it really kind of spawned all the stuff that I dug about Elvis. So what's weird is, and I think you'll agree with me on this, is when you see it, you kind of get, this is what every Elvis impersonator thinks that they're doing. Most of them are failing, but this is what they think. And the other thing I noticed, well, we'll get into this a little bit later, but I think it's where all of the, well, I guess we'll talk about it now. So I think it's where all of the images for every Black Velvet Elvis came from, pretty much.
Right. If you're buying a Elvis Black Velvet painting on the side of the road, there is 99 out of 100% chance that, it's going to be Elvis in the American Eagle jumpsuit, that haircut, usually a lei around his neck.
Yep, just sweat pouring down his face, maybe tears.
Yeah. Which, tears or sweat, I mean, it's for you, the consumer, to decide exactly what is on your Black Velvet Elvis painting.
Well, he did a lot of ballads, so that's probably why there were a little bit of tears were falling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You saw what I did there. We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. It usually comes up. So, what do you know about the background of the Elvis Aloha from Hawaii special?
Oh, I think I already said all of it. 1973 in Hawaii, was sort of spearheaded by, oddly enough, Colonel Tom Parker.
Yes. It
had a viewership of over 1 billion, but knocking on 1.5 billion people, I think. And if I'm not mistaken, it is still to this day the single most watched television program of a single entertainer, like simulcast at any time. So it's pretty amazing achievement.
That 1.5 billion number, the main source of that is Colonel Tom Parker. I don't know exactly like how he would know that, but it's one of those things, he repeated it enough that it became the official story. It also played in 36 countries. Did not play in China or Russia, but pretty much everywhere else that, had like a thriving television market. Did particularly well in Asian countries, Japan and Vietnam and the Philippines and
Korea did really well. A lot of people watched it there.
Korea.
And oddly enough, although it was simulcast, it was not watched in the United States until April. 3 months later, that's when the U.S. market, and then it was recut, and then they added some filmed pieces and pre-recorded music on top of the edited live performance. And I'm going to say to its detriment.
Yeah.
I watched both. Yeah, although there was some interesting camera angles, and I will say in those filmed pieces when there's the split shots and they'll put a little tiny Elvis up in the corner, I swear that's the inspiration for the tiny Elvis bit on Saturday Night Live. Probably right there. Like I can't guarantee that. This is just my feelings on it, but that's where I think it came from.
Look at that waterfall, man.
Exactly.
I think it's huge.
Is that, well, I guess you're technically imitating somebody else imitating Elvis.
Yes. I'm doing, well, the first appearance of Tiny Elvis was Nicolas Cage on SNL. And then all subsequent appearances were Rob Schneider. Such a good bit that they recast the role. Well, of course, the reason that the U.S. didn't get it until a few months after January was, of course, it was recorded on Super Bowl Sunday.
Which is weird because, knowing that Elvis was such a football fan.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm assuming maybe they just did it early enough that he could go home and then watch the Super Bowl afterwards. Like, he did get out of there in a hurry, so he probably didn't do an encore. Like, he might have known when kickoff was and was like, I got to get back to the hotel.
Yeah, that's entirely possible, but it seems to me that Elvis could have said, like, let's push it forward a week. Let's push it back a week. I mean, he was like a massive football fan, so that had to be on his radar. Anyway, that's very strange.
It is.
But that's the reason why the U.S. didn't get it till April.
Correct. But it tells you kind of where America's head was at the time. And it wasn't with Elvis, it was with football.
It was NBC's highest rated show of 1973. The special, as we said, was recorded in January. The soundtrack LP came out in February of 73. And that was Elvis's first number one record since 1965, and would also be his last number one record.
That's too bad.
But, I mean, maybe that benefited the special being aired in April, that people had a couple months to, like, buy the album and get familiar with the set. I don't know. Is that a benefit?
I would almost think it would take away. So if if you've already listened to the album, then do you necessarily want to watch it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it didn't hurt it too bad.
No.
People watched it.
Well,
so
yeah.
Well, in fact,
certainly.
We just watched it X amount of years later, 47, 48 years. That's a lot.
Good Lord.
Yeah. It's aged well. Better than me.
People are still watching it.
People are still watching it.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about any highlights of the special that you enjoy?
Well, I have weird things that I kind of dig about it. So there are a couple little things that I really dig. One of them is the bizarre kind of camera angles that they used, like the split screens, which I kind of mentioned earlier with the Tiny Elvis. And there's a couple times where they have 4 images, and one of them will just be, I don't know, it's either like his arm, or there's one in particular where it's just his boot and the bell bottom. And that's just what's on screen when you see it's him singing the song. And I don't know, for some reason that always cracks me up. Other things that I kind of dig about it. So another highlight for me, there are 2 in particular. One of them is when he does Love Me. And there's this part where he's like, I want your heart beating close to mine. And he hits on his chest and he takes the microphone and like hits it on his rib cage. And to this day, I think that's just very funny. And I've probably imitated that 100 times, sometimes with corn dogs, who knows. But if you've got a microphone, it's just one of those things.
Sure.
And then another thing that I really dig about it is the flute player in American Trilogy.
Oh, my God.
Because it's so weird. It's so in your face. And if you haven't watched it, don't watch it for that reason. But if you have watched it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I've probably offended everyone with that. But yeah, just bringing that image back into somebody's mind is something you probably want to forget. But it's still a highlight for me.
Sure. So. Well, it's nuts. It's the director of the special, Marty Posada, kind of a journeyman director of TV specials and stuff of this ilk. Just the idea that during the flute solo in American Trilogy, which is lovely, that you would cut to a tight close-up of somebody playing the flute. Which,
yeah, and he's mustachioed, but the mustache that goes into the sideburns, and there's an element there that's really hard to watch.
Yeah, and he's kind of bug-eyed and chubby-cheeked, and he's got this kind of like sparse mustache and putting a lot of tongue into it.
Yep.
And yeah, it's not pretty to look at.
No, but it cracks me up every time I see it. So it's a highlight
you consider
for
it
me.
a highlight. Okay.
So
okay.
yeah, because I can't look away, and I can't not laugh at it when I see it. So it makes the highlight reel for me. And when I think about this special, it pops into my head. Unfortunately, it's a very unfortunate side effect of having watched the special, is that I have to think about that when I think about the special.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's not great.
Yeah. And for you, now, what were some of your highlights?
Well, I love the jumpsuit. The American Eagle. It's the first appearance of the American Eagle. I think it would be used a few more times after that, or at least a version of it. But, eventually we're going to have to do like a top 10 jumpsuits episode or something.
Yeah, it would definitely be on there. Definitely.
It would be on there. I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily call like the American Eagle my like all-time favorite. But if you were to, around the Halloween season, go to like a party city and you're going to like rent an Elvis jumpsuit costume, it's going to be the American Eagle.
Yeah, that's what you're getting.
It's going to be. Right.
That is absolutely what you're getting.
Right. It would be like strange if they gave you like the Burnin' Love or something,
Right. And like I had mentioned earlier at the top of the show, if you went to go see an Elvis impersonator, 99% chance what they're going to wear, I think. Maybe a little lower than that, 90%. Yeah. Let's say 90% chance they're going to be wearing American Eagle.
90% would be safe to say that there would be some sort of variation on the American Eagle. And whatever, it's iconic. It really does look great on him in this special. I mean, it's probably best case scenario, Elvis in a jumpsuit, the look, the belt, the cape, everything. Yeah, it's really working. And so kudos to that. Also highlights the TCB band is in fine form that night. I would definitely say.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, they're all, it's like a murderer's row of great players. You've got James Burton, obviously, anchoring the lead guitar work. And he's playing his iconic Paisley Telly. Jerry Schiff on the Fender bass. Ronnie Tutt on drums. Glenn Harden on piano. John Wilkerson on rhythm.
Yeah, you can stop right there. I mean, that's already a great band.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's a band. That's a band right there.
That's a band. And then you add on top of that, Kathy Westmoreland, the Sweet Inspirations, the Stamps.
Sure. Right. Joe Gershow orchestra, a 30-member orchestra.
Yeah, and don't forget Charlie Hodge. He's there. He's out. He's the big sound of Charlie Hodge. Do you think his guitar is plugged in during an? I'm going to say no. He's just playing.
I mean, it doesn't look like it to me. Though, then again, during the beginning of the special, Elvis has a guitar during CC Rider and let's see, what are the first two songs? CC Rider and Burning Love.
Yeah.
He does not have the guitar beyond the first song, right?
I think he he comes out. I think he just has it for Burnin' Love, right?
Or CC Rider.
Yeah, maybe that's right. God, I just watched it today.
Yeah,
you would think I would remember that, but he takes it off right at the beginning of the show, and then he's like, "No more."
Yeah, and that guitar's not plugged in.
Right, and barely played either. Like he does kind of play it a little bit, but it's for show. Just like Charlie Hodge, he's there for Waters and Scarves, and they're like, "Well, we'll give you a microphone and a guitar." And
but here's the thing: is his mic live? Charlie Hodge's. Would you give Charlie Hodge a live mic in that situation?
It'd be way down in the mix. Yeah,
it just seems like he could blurt something out, or Elvis would be in the midst of like an onstage rap or something, and Charlie Hodge would pipe in with like a "That's right, Elvis" or something completely unnecessary. It's like I can't imagine his mic is live.
Well, here's what I would probably do in that. So I might just have him up in the monitors, but then in the house you just have him down. Right. So he thinks. So he's going to hear himself thinking like, I'm part of this. There you go. That's probably what they did.
Right.
Smart money. Yeah. That'd be the smart money would say that'd be what they did to Charlie Hodge.
We're going to have to do a Charlie Hodge episode at some point because I've got a lot to say about that guy. But,
all right. Well, maybe we'll put a cork in it for now.
Right.
I don't want to let the cat out of the bag yet. People are going to know your feelings on the man.
So, well, let's talk about lowlights of the Elvis Aloha from Hawaii special. What's bad about it?
I'm going to say a couple of things. It's kind of low energy, surprisingly to me, and a lot of ballads, like lots of ballads. I'm not saying he doesn't sing them well, but it's a lot of ballads for the king of rock and roll. And
it's about half the set, really.
Right. And it's a lot of them. And I think part of it is maybe it's just what he was going through in his life. Maybe he felt them. I mean, he did, like I said, he did emote them very well. You gave me a mountain, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And let's see. Yeah, I think it just kind of reflects where he was emotionally, maybe his own personal struggles. And the other thing is he's not that close to the crowd for like a live show, although they did a good job with having the mirrors up and you kind of see him in reflections. It takes a long time before you kind of see him really interacting with the crowd. I would say you're about halfway through the set before he really kind of walks out, because they have that little walkway for him to use.
Sure.
And yeah, he's about halfway through the set before he ever goes out there. So that's a lot of distance with people not up near the stage. So it feels disjointed a little bit. And then another low light for me is going to be all the songs they added afterwards. All the filmed pieces. Wow. Those are rough. Those are tough to watch.
Right. But that's, strictly for the U.S. market.
They didn't care about us. So I could see why it was more popular in the Asian and European countries, because they didn't have to put up with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What about you? What are some low lights?
To be honest, you hit several of mine, but
I peeked at your notes.
I was also going to say a low light for me, and maybe this is petty. It's a weird haircut for Elvis, the Aloha from Hawaii. It's very severe.
Yeah. And I know he's being broadcast with so much makeup.
Yeah. A lot of foundation.
Lots of everything. Just pancake. Yeah, I would agree. His hair looks a little bizarre, although it gets better later when it kind of gets the little floppy.
Sure. I don't know if you watched this in preparation of this episode, the alternate Aloha, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I watched bits and pieces. And I'm going to say, if you get a chance to watch that, I think it's a better show.
Yeah.
Like all the performances seem a little bit more animated. He's having a little more fun. It has a couple fewer songs in it, but I don't miss them, the ones that they leave out.
But, obviously they filmed that one too. It was 2 days before the proper Aloha special. So anyway, they filmed that. They watched it back. Everybody took notes. And it was decided that Elvis needed to have some sort of hair reboot from whatever he was working in the alternate Aloha, which is much more of what you think of when you think of Elvis, kind of the shaggy mop going on. And they kind of cut it down to a parody of an Elvis haircut. Though I think it's, once again, circling back to the whole Party City thing. If you were to go there and it's like, I need to rent or buy, I guess no one's renting wigs anymore, but I need to buy an Elvis wig, they're going to give you something that looks like that. Like the Aloha
absolutely.
haircut.
And it'll have the attached sideburns as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that just goes to show just how iconic the performance is. When you think of the image of him, especially in his later career, that's what you get. I mean, it is this performance. Even though, there were more films of him performing, but I think this one is just, it was more findable. I did not look to see if they rebroadcast that often. I mean, I'm sure it got rebroadcast a couple of times.
It had to have, reruns and whatnot. So, didn't like the haircut. Also, you covered everything else, but there was no Poke Salad Annie on the set, which was a mainstay for pretty much his entire live career from 1970 to the time of his death, and pretty much everything else gets hit, and it's just kind of a ripper that I would have loved to see represented in Aloha, but with kind of like a fuzz bass solo, and I don't know, it's just one of my personal favorites.
Yeah, it is a strange omission, and it's a song that had different iterations through the years, and you can go and you can hear different fuzz bass solo. The Sweet Inspirations would do some really great background vocals on some of it. It's a great tune, and I agree. It's a strange one that they left out. Maybe they just wanted to tone down the show a little bit. Add in another ballad. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why maybe that's what they cut for I'll Remember You.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kui Lee.
Hawaiian singer-songwriter that Elvis covered his song and he died of cancer.
Mm-hmm. The cancer thing that they raised $75,000 for. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like a worldwide satellite concert.
Yeah, 1.5 billion people watched. They raised $75,000. And that's 1973
yes.
money, which, if you adjust for inflation, is about $440,000.
You're right.
Right.
Which Elvis spent more in a car dealership in one day in 1973 than $400,000.
Well, it's no shock that they haven't found a cure for cancer yet. When those are the numbers they're bringing in to cure it.
Sure.
It's like, it's not a problem unless I have it.
Right.
So who's going to spend money on that?
That many people involved, that much effort. That's how much they earned. Take it or leave it. Cancer.
Exactly.
So certainly you've heard or read about the director Marty Pasetta getting this gig to direct the Elvis from Aloha special, or to actually pitch his concept for the show.
Right.
The first person he met with was the Colonel, and he said, yeah, I caught an Elvis concert in Long Island, and I got to tell you, I've got all these notes for what this show is, and I don't even know if I can make a compelling hour of TV or hour and a half of TV out of this. And it's like Elvis has to interact with the crowd more, and he's got to move around more. Two things that actually didn't end up happening on the show: moving around more and interacting with the crowd more.
Right. Well, like I said, I think maybe he just remembered that note.
Right.
Halfway through the show.
He's like, oh yeah, I got to do this now.
Right. And I think he had to kind of be planted and hit marks for all of the cameras, because there's 3, 4, 5 cameras going at one point.
At least, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So I'm sure that he had to hit certain marks for certain songs, so which is probably why he seems a little too planted. But I agree. I have seen a little bit about the meeting with the producer, and one of his big things, I think this is what you're going to hit on, was he's like, well, you got to lose 25 pounds.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Which, Elvis I'm sure this meeting was late 72. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I could see that. Well, and if you're going to go out to that many eyeballs, you're going to want to look your best. And Elvis was a guy who's really no stranger to insane crash diets, and the rest of his life being total excess for its own sake. And then, oh my God, I got to go shoot Fun in Acapulco, and I'm going to have to be shirtless for a couple scenes. So I'm going to have to do something about all this. This is just a never-ending cycle in Elvis's life. And the guy had the discipline to pull it off when he had to. So when he was asked to lose 25 pounds in a relatively short time, what can I say? He rose to the challenge. I did a little bit of reading about how he pulled it off. And it was sort of a fad diet in the 70s. And there's remnants of this still existing today, this idea of getting injected with something called HCG, if you're familiar.
That, no.
Which is a human chorionic gonadotropin, is what it's called.
Probably why I haven't heard of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's basically injecting yourself with the urine of pregnant women.
Okay. I mean, he was just doing it to lose weight, or just was there another reason?
Well, yeah, it was something that he just did anyway. But no,
what was he trying to beat a paternity suit? So he's getting pregnant urine injected into him, and then he'd take a test. It'd come back oh, you're actually a pregnant woman. He's like, well, I can't be a father if I'm actually a mother. Something like that. Is that maybe what he was trying to do?
I would imagine that's probably 100% accurate.
Okay.
But as it turns out, according to the theory, is HCG tricks your body into thinking that it's pregnant and will subsequently help you metabolize fat faster, is the concept. Right.
And
that's
that works on men, so not to be sexist or anything here, but I don't think it's something that's going to really come up.
Right.
Yeah, so that seems odd.
But also in conjunction to this diet is that you're supposed to consume less than 500 calories a day while you're on this. And it's like, to me, this is starting to seem like that, like Simpsons bit where it's like, well, this rock will keep bears away. I must have that rock. If you're consuming less than 500 calories a day, which is just absolutely insane, and also the diet is only for dried fruits and like beef jerky and basically stuff with no moisture, so you're just kind of like,
ugh.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that's what's doing the heavy lifting here. It's not
Right.
It's not whatever he's getting injected with. Yeah, you're right. If you're calorie restricted to 500 calories and all you can eat is beef jerky and nuts, you're just going to drop weight like a stone.
Yeah, and also, I guess, like all-day karate and racquetball sessions going on during this for the weight loss, or maybe doing karate and racquetball at the same time. I don't know. Maybe he invented something.
Yeah, maybe instead of having a racket, like to make it fair to the other participants, he would just use his hands. So he's technically playing handball, but they've got rackets.
Right. Or, how about this? He's playing handball, but he can only use his feet.
There you go. Perfect.
So
yeah, that seems like a pretty good workout, actually. I might give it a shot. I need to do something.
Playing racquetball or handball as you were, but it's technically feet ball, and it's all like roundhouse kicks.
Wow. That's a sport, though, isn't it? And that's something? I think it's...
If it ain't, it ought to be.
Yeah.
But also, it should be noted that he recruited a diet buddy to do this with him.
Yeah.
And it was Sonny.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I wonder how Sonny dug that.
Probably not at all, because by all accounts, like the Memphis Mafia just like barely got paid. It's like you can live in the house, you can eat all the food you want. We'll take you guys out like clothes shopping. We'll buy you all cars and stuff. But it's not like these guys had like credit cards.
Right. Yeah. Get a couple of snowmobiles out of petty cash.
Right.
You know, yeah. That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like the main way to make money being in the Memphis Mafia is to like take a necklace Elvis bought for you to the nearest pawn shop and cash it in for like $1,700 or something. You know, I got some walking around money now. But anyway, Elvis pulled it off. He lost 25 pounds very quickly, and to me, he very much looks like a guy who lost a lot of weight very fast.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like kind of slim and trim, but also his face is still kind of porky.
Is a little puffy, but that also might be, and you know, it's something we don't really touch on a whole lot or haven't. So I'm assuming, besides getting injected with pregnant women's urine, I'm assuming he's just kind of hopped up on goofballs or something.
Just gobbling pills.
Yeah, taking a bunch of pills. So that's gotta have an effect on you too. And speaking of that, I mean, the first song when he comes out and does like CC Rider, in his eyes, he just looks like he's on something. To me, I've always kind of thought that from the first time I saw the special. His eyes are just kind of off.
And I mean, CC Rider is a song about drug addiction, right?
Right.
That's what I always thought. Yeah.
It is now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Now and forever. So let me ask you this, Burl. Was this his last hurrah, Elvis?
I think it's the last great thing that he did. Because, like, after this, there was really no place else to go. He didn't go tour overseas or Europe or anything. Like, all the groundwork that had kind of been laid by this, like, you can't really do anything with it. Like, oh, well, now all these Asian countries have seen me. Now I can actually go and do this in person, which would have been a great way to do it. It probably would have been a household name anyway. But to think that, okay, well, now you're going to go play Omaha again, or wherever you're going to go. Nothing against Omaha, but after a while, I mean, you just might want a different crowd to come see you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, definitely this was his last big deal. I mean, there's really no doubt about it. I would have loved to see him get another movie together. Maybe record... I don't know. After 1973, did he have any hit songs? When was Moody Blue?
I thought that was 74, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
You know, I hear that when he was in Hawaii, though, because I believe, was it Jack Lord came to see him?
Yeah.
That he actually filmed an unaired Hawaii Five-0 that's been lost. Yeah, and he played a nightclub singer named Ricky Shades. I don't know if that's true. I just made that up, but It sounds plausible.
I mean, I was like,
I had you.
Holy,
oh, wow,
yeah.
I really had you.
No, you really did. Yeah,
Okay.
you really did.
Yeah,
you know. Well, it's just because, like Elvis, I'm all hopped up on goofballs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, another weird fact that and I don't know if you've done this with the set list, but if you take the first letter of each song that he sings, it spells out "send help."
Really?
No, it doesn't do that either. I made up weird facts about this show. Yeah.
Man, I'm blowing it tonight.
That's all right. Yeah.
Oh, I just looked it up. Moody Blue released November of 76. U.S. Billboard Hot 100. It got as high as number 31. But the country charts, it hit number 1.
That's all right. That's still respectable.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's a weird thing that Elvis, even before it was really popular, like how it is now, how all these rock musicians become country stars, he was doing that way before everybody else.
Yeah. No, you're not
He
wrong.
already knew. Just put a cowboy hat on him. And plus, he's from the South, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, country elements were present in pretty much everything he recorded his entire career. I mean, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Rockabilly, it's kind of a crossover thing. There's country elements in rockabilly, so rock and roll and all that stuff. So
let's talk about, do you have anything picked out as the 2 best songs from Elvis Aloha in Hawaii?
So
from
for
Hawaii.
2 best songs, I would go, it's tough because Steamroller is really good, but I might go Love Me is great. I think because of the bit that he does with the microphone, maybe that's why.
Sure.
But it's also, to me, where the show starts. It's not bad up to that point, but he does Love Me, and that's kind of where it kind of goes to this next place, where it kind of becomes a little more fun, a little more free, and his version of the tune, I think they do it really well. And then you gotta say, for the other one, I mean, it's got to be Trilogy, right? I mean, it's just, I don't know if it's the best they ever did it, but it's pretty amazing. It's way up there with like best performances of it.
Yeah, it's good. It's just like nothing I can throw in the car and kind of rock out to.
No, but I mean, for the show itself, and like I said, because it is sort of low-key, it's a lot of ballads. I mean, I think for what he's going for, it's pretty good. I mean, what are your tops?
Well, I was going to say Steamroller as well, even though I hate James Taylor. I don't mind that song coming from the mouth of Elvis, and I think it's a fun, kind of playful, slow burn, you know, early on in the set. That's pretty good. And as much as I talk smack about the ballads, the Beatles cover, Something, I think is a lovely moment in the special.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's a George Harrison song, who, of course, as we know, he was the Kung Fu Beatle.
That's true. He was the Kung Fu Beatle. A lot of people don't know that.
You know, you had the loud one, you had the smelly one, you had the Kung Fu Beatle, and who was the 4th one?
The one who knew all the sailor knots.
Yeah, exactly.
The sailor knot Beatle.
Yeah.
So let me ask you really quick, though. Your disdain for James Taylor, is it Carly Simon related? Is it something that he did to her? Or is it just, isn't he one of the people in that You're So Vain? But isn't that about him?
Oh, I always thought that was about Warren Beatty.
Warren Beatty wishes that was about him.
I think, like, James Taylor's just a wormy little punk. I just don't like him.
Yeah.
But, well, now that we're on a negative tip, what are your worst songs from the special?
Okay, any of the pre-recorded stuff, the wedding song and all that stuff, I just...
Sure.
They just don't seem like they belong there.
Yeah,
they're just they're really disjointed. They have nothing to do with any of the rest of the show. So the real low points. And then I'm going to say, I don't hate the song, but I don't really like his version of it in this. And it just, you know, when we were talking about, you know, Polk Salad Alley should have been in, I think they could have cut Johnny Be Good.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, I know that's weird, but like I said, it's not really his tune. So I don't feel like you're missing anything if he doesn't do it. I'm sure there are other tunes I probably could have. Whatever, I don't know. I'm sticking to my guns on this one. Johnny Be Good, man. I don't know.
You know, we didn't discuss this beforehand. My 2 worst songs does also include Johnny Be Good. And
so we're still friends. After all this, we're still friends.
The show can continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a signature tune for Chuck Berry. and as you say, Elvis has like no personal connection to it. It's just there was a lot of sort of material Elvis was doing at this time that was like sort of, hey guys, remember the rock and roll? You know, like in the early 70s, hey, remember rock and roll? Like that sort of thing, like this whole American graffiti thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Elvis kind of became like the avatar of like what 1950s rock and roll was. So it's not only he's doing Johnny Be Good on this special, he's doing Blue Suede Shoes, which of course he had like a pretty notable cover of that back in the day.
Right.
But he's also doing Long Tall Sally and a whole lot of shaking going on. And
yeah, you know, there are songs from his songbook that I think would fit in much better than this song. And I agree. I think it's a Chuck Berry song. Like you don't hear that and think, oh, Elvis. You think Chuck Berry, and I like James Burton. I think he plays great on it. I don't know. I just think that it just didn't really belong in the set.
No, you're exactly right. And it just the kind of like perfunctory, half-assed way that it just ends up in the set. It's less than 2 minutes. It's just kind of like, why is this here? You could put Jailhouse Rock in there, and it would be like a genuinely like great moment.
Absolutely.
Of
you know, and it's a weird omission. It's a weird omission from his show.
Though it was hardly ever played during his 1970 to 77 like live era. Another one of the songs I didn't like, I hate to say it, but I'll Remember You is kind of a low point.
Yeah.
It's just another treacly ballad in a set that's full of them. I know it was the guy that the benefit is for. He like wrote that song, and it is a pretty common song in Elvis live sets during that era. Mm-hmm. It's just like still, and like, I don't know, man. It does nothing for me. Yeah.
One that I would go back to highlight a little bit real quick. One that, and maybe it's because it's a moment for Jerry Schiff, but Fever is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a highlight there. And like I said, it's kind of a mixed bag. It's weird to look back on it and all the song choices they could have made. And I understand having some ballads, you want to have those powerful moments on stage and everything.
Mm-hmm. Elvis is good at ballads.
He's very good. He's very good at them. Yeah. So I can't deny him the fact that he could really emote them so well, especially at that point in his life. So let's see what else we're going to talk about.
The bigger cape versus shorter cape. It was like Bill Ballou designed this calf-length cape.
Okay.
And it was deemed to be too heavy to use for the show. So he scrambled to put together a hip-length cape, is what they eventually used. But he's barely wearing this cape during the special, so...
He wears it the very last song.
Right.
And then throws it into the audience. And the belt. So he threw a belt and, I mean, you know, lighten your load, I guess. And then, you know, so Elvis, we kind of know later in his career would have a gun stuck into his boot. You think he's packing even during this show.
Definitely.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to go with definitely.
Yeah, he's got, I would say, probably at least, you know, a 22 in some sort of calf-mounted holster underneath his bell-bottoms.
Sure. Yeah, I would definitely say that. Maybe one on each, because you don't want to, like...
Yeah, possibly.
You want to balance out.
Nothing that he would necessarily be able to, like, engage in a heavy-duty firefight with, but like an emergency pistol. Yeah. Right.
Or maybe he's got the gun on, like, the right leg and then extra clips on the left.
Right.
In case it's a, you know, long firefight.
Right.
That'd be my theory. That's probably how I would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe a knife on the left as well.
Right. And, I don't know, brass knuckles in your pocket, probably.
Just anything you can get your hands on, really. Maybe something to start a fire with in case, like, you're stuck out in the woods for some reason and a jumpsuit.
Right.
You know, something you can make a tent out of. I mean, maybe that's why you have the big collars.
Sure.
You tear those off. Know, like, you can make a little lean-to.
He had, like, a couple of cyanide capsules sewn into his collar. You know, just in case.
Yeah, one in each sideburn.
Right.
Yeah, just like hidden, just like weaved in.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you would try to pass one off to Charlie Hodge at the end of every show.
I bet he, like, reveled in just screwing with Charlie Hodge. And I will say this, so if you watch the concert unedited, I mean, he doesn't really, like, take the piss out of him too bad, but he kind of says a couple things about him. But they edit that down in the NBC special. They cut it down, they cut out some of the stuff he says about him. And like I said, he doesn't say anything too bad about him, but still, if you're introduced as the guy that's, I don't remember, he call it like a flunky. He calls him a flunky, I think.
Yeah. It says, guy that gives me my water and my scarves. And
it's like a general flunky, right?
Yeah, general flunky. Right, exactly.
Yep. But honestly, if Charlie Hodge, we'll get into this just for a second, if Charlie Hodge was filling out like a CV, I think General Flunky would be in there. Like, he'd be able to get a job as a General Flunky someplace. Like, high paid.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got years of experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the only job he ever had in his life, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because after Elvis died, he spent the rest of his days talking about, like, hey, I used to work for Elvis.
Yeah, I wonder, was there anybody else that needed water and scarves? Like Sonny and Cher? Did they... I mean,
No.
Could Charlie Hodge have gone on to be a scarf water guy anywhere else, you think?
That's a good question.
He could have possibly gone to even like a sports team with like towels and water. I mean, he could have upgraded the towels. They're a little heavier, but I think, he's a stout guy, barrel-chested.
I think that Tom Jones would have been an ideal employer for Charlie Hodge after Elvis died. Like somebody who needs a lot of water and a lot of scarves.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I'm thinking Tom Jones, he's going to get his own water and scarves,
Yeah.
He's just going to have like a bench on the side with water and scarves on. He'll just walk over there.
Sure. Wow, how about this? Here's a screenplay idea. Elvis dies. Charlie Hodge needs to find a new performer to give water and scarves to. Mm-hmm. Gets hired by James Brown.
Wow, there you go.
Fish out of a water comedy.
Here's the weird thing. I'm shocked that's not the first person we thought of. I mean, you thought of him, but I mean, if he's going to hand water and scarves to anybody besides Elvis, it's going to be James Brown.
Sure.
Yeah, be great. That'd be a great movie.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I'd definitely watch it. I think if he had waited a few more years, Morris Day.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, well, him and Jerome could, take turns.
Yeah, I mean, the sort of thing that Jerome did with Morris Day in the time, Charlie Hodge definitely pioneered. Man. Yep. Yeah, wow.
Yep.
I think we've had a breakthrough.
Yeah, I feel like we really got somewhere today.
I'm a different person now than we were at the start of this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, I guess we haven't posted it yet. I was going to ask you if anybody's offered you money for your having fun with Elvis.
Oh, I've had a couple of interesting offers, but, we're still trying to work on a price.
Yeah.
Like, what did I say, $18,
Yeah. Do you haggle or do you dicker? Which one do you do? But you can do both, not at the same time. Sure. But you got to do one or the other. Which one are you going? I think you're going to haggle.
I prefer a haggle.
Yeah. I dicker for a while, and then I'll haggle a little afterwards. Yeah. maybe with a cigarette. All right. Well, did we hit everything we wanted to hit?
I believe we did. I feel like we talked a lot about the Aloha special, but your mileage may vary.
Yep, absolutely. So, and I would say watch it, or if you don't want to watch it, you can just listen to it because it's a great show. Just
it's on Spotify.
It is on Spotify. You might just want to skip a few ahead and get to. Well, he comes out and he plays those songs pretty well, like CC Rider, Burnin' Love, something. I mean, there's some good ones on there. But watching it live, I think it really doesn't take off to Love Me. But to listen to it, I think that's a good one.
It has everything Elvis related. I mean, we're doing the damn podcast here, so of course this is my opinion. It's all worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just as a cultural moment, it's very much worth being familiar with. If you've stuck with this episode this long and you haven't seen it, I mean, go check it out.
Yeah, and nobody's topped it. No group has topped it since then. Take that, Mop the Hoople.
And honestly, nobody ever will.
Yeah, I don't think so. Because nobody's going to do it first again.
No. And the monoculture is too splintered at this point. I mean, it doesn't exist anymore. It's like everything's too niche.
All right. With that, I think we're going to wrap it up. Mm-hmm. So until next time, this was Suspicious Minds, and I've been Burl.
I continue to be Wade.
All right. Until next time.
Yeah.